Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and tonight I'm proud to bring you the premiere episode of the Tenafly News with Councilwoman Julie O'Connor. Greetings, Councilwoman. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, and I hope you have a happy new year.
The same here, and I'm always excited when you're on the show because you have so many interesting things to report to us about what's happening in and about Tenafly.
Okay, well, happy to do it. Well, first things first, I wanted to just let everyone know that the Grove Street Park, which is what we're referring to as the name of what we had called the old swim club, which is now the Grove Street Park. The work is going along well, and you will see that the raised flower beds that are going to be for ADA compliant gardeners in town. And they should contact the green team for how to reserve those plots. That should all be ready by spring. We don't want to put some of those things out in the winter to have them beat up before spring. So expect kind of all phases of it to be open in spring, but we think some of the parts of it will be open for February. So that will have, as I've said, we have the skate park, we have the raised flower beds, and we have an expanded dog park and a pollinator garden. So, and a lot of nice benches for people to sit and enjoy the area, and pathways that will be compliant for wheelchairs as well. So it's a very exciting project, and I want everybody to enjoy that and just get ready for that for the spring. But I know a lot of people see the signs saying construction is being done, and the old swim club, which we're calling the Grove Street Park, and that is one of the things I just want people to know about first.
That is fantastic. And I know a decade ago when I was more active and involved, I would go to the meetings of the mayor and council, and a lot of these things were ideas percolating even back then. And then to watch them slowly come into being over the years, that's a wonderful feeling, I can tell you.
Oh, that's so great to hear. And then I also want to take this opportunity to more broadly just remind people to come to our council meetings. Just like you gave me a great segue because you'll hear what's being discussed. And I'll tell you just a few of the things that were on the to be considered section of last night's council meeting. So one of the things is we have a cannabis committee, and that is a group of council members, and I think talking to different industry leaders about the potential of different types of cannabis related business and where they might fit in town. Now, this is just in a to be considered stage, and I don't have an opinion on the sale of cannabis in town. I honestly, in my experience with it in the past, when we had the first committee a few years ago, when the law had just changed, making it legal, I had gotten a lot of negative feedback from residents. And so I'm not entirely sure now that the law has been rolled out and it's been sold in some communities like Fort Lee, and I believe Teaneck is now getting a dispensary. Um, then, people's opinions might have changed. Nobody wanted to be first to the sales of these a lot of times. But that's so there's going to be there's a new committee with kind of new considerations. So the reason I'm also bringing that up to your show is because if anybody wants to kind of hear those discussions, see where those are going, that feedback, I think they really should, um, just let the council know where their head is at. Does that make sense when I'm saying? Because I'm not trying to commit one way or the other. It's just I like people to know what's going on in town and what's being talked about.
I think that's a wise course of action that you're taking. I have mixed opinions about the issue, and we've done dozens of shows in the past on that topic when it was newer to our area. And I believe I still have those contacts somewhere. So if you'd like, I can invite people to come give us a broader perspective. Um, but I've heard mixed things also. Some people are for it, some people are against it. Some people point to the economic value and to the medicinal value for certain things. And again, I'm not an expert in such things, so I don't know. But it's good to hear what people have to say and to research it.
Exactly. And just to that point, not everything that we are for, like even just as a perspective of freedom or something to do with, you know, even its advantages, it doesn't necessarily mean you want to sell it in Tenafly, right? So, that's just something for people to keep in mind. It's not really only the discussion about cannabis, which obviously is legal, and people can make their own decision if they want to consume it. The question is about, do we want it to be dispensed in Tenafly? So that's just, I just like people to know what is being discussed.
Personally, I'm currently having severe back pains. And so a lot of people had recommended, and I tried it. I couldn't tell any difference personally with me between taking like Excedrin PM or taking the gummies. So the Excedrin,
Yes, those anti-inflammatory kind of CBD gummies, exactly. They can do a lot as well. You're right.
but for me, it didn't. The difference in price and the lack
Oh,
of
yeah.
difference between the results I was getting made me stick with the PM ibuprofens or whatever.
Hey, a Tylenol PM could put me right out. That I will tell you. I sleep real well with that. But look, I think that it's definitely worth people, you know, hearing where the discussion goes. Again, I'm not on the committee this time. Just like to bring these things up to you and other townspeople. And then the other thing I wanted to just let people know about is what was on the to be considered yesterday was something regarding limiting the again, like to be considered is before it becomes an ordinance. So it's the first step when we kind of discuss things and then get a sense of where the council's at, and then the next meeting becomes an ordinance, right? And so the thing we were discussing last night, it was brought up to me by a friend of my son's mother who lived on a block where, in fact, they were having an issue where someone was renting their home out to Airbnb. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I know. I was actually really surprised. I didn't realize that there are some homes in Tenafly that are rented for Airbnbs or something called VRBO, same idea, very frequently. So there are some homes where it's not a person who goes away and says, "Oh, let me rent this for a week." There's homes where like they do this really frequently. That's the source of income. That a person doesn't live there per se. They use it just as an Airbnb property. That seemed to be the situation that this woman was living by. She brought it up, and the council is going to be taking action to ensure that Tenafly homes do not have um, the ability to be Airbnb, because it's not like we live in a beach community or a ski resort town, but this is kind of not what we sign up for here, is to have people doing a short-term rental of a week or so right next door to us.
Yeah, I can see that. I'd be very interested in to see where that discussion goes. We're living in a world that's changing so fast that it's hard sometimes to keep track of what's going on and then to ponder the implications of what's going on. So I really appreciate your bringing these things to our attention because they are important and they'll affect not only our today's, but many tomorrows besides.
That's really well said because a lot of times you find out something where you say, there ought to be a law, right? You're like, isn't there a
Yes,
law, right? And you're like, oh, there was no law because nobody was renting their home for 2 nights, and then another 2 nights. Now, just so your audience knows that when it's above 30 days, the state has
mhm,
regulations about rental. Okay, so this is the less than 30-day rental space that we were regulating, which really is an Airbnb situation. So yes, but that was well said what you said about how the rapidly changing world. So yes, so I think that will be regulated and prevented at a upcoming meeting. And luckily, the people who are impacted, some of the neighbors did show up um, and say how it impacts them from things like, the people don't even, obviously, they don't know how to put their garbage out on
mhm.
days or recycling. These are just renters of the house for a couple days. So a lot of implications.
Could if they decide to do the Airbnb or the short
Sorry.
stays, yeah, I know I have a dog here too. She's been jumping on my lap and licking my hands. We pet it. Um, I know the Welcome Committee has a great little booklet on what's going on in Tenafly in terms of garbage pickups and recyclables and things like that. Could that be part of what they give to people who are renting if they decide to rent or if that's approved by the council? This way they know what the rules are and uh, if they respect the rules, then there'll be less conflict.
Oh, I think that that's definitely a good reminder because I am liaison to the Welcome Committee. They do great stuff, and you're
Yes.
right. I remember from the other hat that I wear, which is the Environmental Commission, that we actually provide information to the Welcome Committee packet for regarding things you can plant in your yard that are native
Mhm.
pollinator plants and things like that. So that's good to remind. I just don't think that the council, given the feedback we've got from residents, is interested in having people rent for less than 30 days, just because of also security implications.
Right.
And there's just a whole host of kind of maybe unintended consequences if we allow our homes to uh, be used in an Airbnb fashion. So I don't think there's too much appetite for allowing that. At least for me, I know that I would not want to live next to a person who used their home as an Airbnb. You know.
I know I have difficulty, and again, it shows you how I've gotten older. I have difficulty now when school is out and kids come home and they're playing their music at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
And you're like, oh, these
Those
kids,
kids,
get
yeah.
off my lawn, right?
Yes, yes.
I got you.
And luckily, I remind myself that I was young not too long ago, and this wouldn't
Uh,
have happened to me.
well, it's important to remind yourself of that, right?
Yes, it is.
Um, and the third thing I just want to bring up that was discussed in the to be considered section was something, an ordinance I brought up that I learned about in a meeting I go to annually about different things going on in different communities called the League of Municipalities. And so it was brought to my attention, and I brought it up to the Environmental Commission, who wholeheartedly endorsed it. So I brought it up to the council, and it's an ordinance called Skip the Stuff. And this is been passed in about a dozen municipalities, including ones as busy and crowded as Hoboken and Jersey City, which is basically as telling let's say restaurant owners, food establishments, that when there's a to-go order, that they don't automatically put in plastic utensils unless the customer asked for them. So it has to be an affirmative ask. Now, one of our places already does this. I'm going to give us an upcharge if you want the plastic utensils. But the other day I had gotten some takeout from a place and realized that they had thrown them in. They think they're doing it as a courtesy. But the truth is, we end up at the end of a year with so much plastic utensils. We're eating it at home. We don't need it. So it puts a lot more plastic into the world. And, pollution and waste. And it would really save the businesses money because they would probably be having to order far less if the customer affirmatively has to ask for it. It's not a ban. It's just, a kind of course correction of let's not unnecessarily provide plastic utensils, right? So this skip the stuff ordinance is something I'm hoping that the council will also endorse, because it seems like a real win-win in these other communities, um, for both the business owners and the environment. Less of those things is less in the trash.
And I like that. I remember, again, when I was more involved, attending meetings where John Worms was discussing the balloon issue, and then
The
the
plastic bag, I
plastic
think he
bag
always would
issue.
bring up, right?
So this seems like a great next step. And yes, I'm amazed, and we try to be conscious of such stuff, is how much plastic and paper and cardboard and we manage to go through just in the process of living our daily lives.
And you are actually conscious of it.
Yes.
So, it just shows you. And then that is a really good segue for me to just also remind everyone the Tenafly compost program can always use more participants. And I have to tell you that while there is a small fee to join it, the benefits are you are really helping the environment, removing all of the food waste from the environment and reducing global warming in that way. But also your own house, your garbage is going to be a lot less smelly, and you're also going to be able to recycle those pesky pizza boxes that you can't do in the paper recycle. The Tenafly compost bins accept pizza boxes. So I just want to remind everyone to please go to Tenafly Composts. You'll also see it on the town website, but if you just Google Tenafly Compost, then you will be able to find, information on the program.
And I experienced deja vu while you said that. Yesterday we had Chinese food, and when we were putting everything away, my wife said, "We can't recycle these pizza boxes. They have stains on them from the oil." So that is something that Tenaflickians encounter and have to deal with.
Oh, that's true. And it's funny, once a week when I drop my compost off, and just if you don't mind me just explaining it really quick to
Oh,
your residents, to the residents, is that you receive a large multi-gallon drum, if you will, and then you put your with a liner, and you put your compost into that container, and then whenever you feel like it, you drop it down the street, and then you get rid of the compost. So it's on your schedule. You drop it down the street and you get a code for the lock. And so when you do that, you now have a clean multi-gallon. I think it's a 5-gallon drum. And then so you go back to it. It's nice and clean now. You got, get a new liner from the compost bin, and in your regular garbage, you really don't have any less smelly food left. So that's what you, for the monthly fee, you get, any liners you want, you drop it off, and you really can reduce your own waste. Uh, and it just, for people who enjoy composting, this is very easy because the bin, the group that services it, called Neighborhood Compost, they will accept, like I said, the pizza boxes, as well as any meat which has bones, which is also sometimes really hard for composters to compost, the stuff that has bones. So just a little backup to, backup reasoning for joining the compost program. So if you just Google Tenafly compost, you'll find it. But also there are different opportunities on our website to find it. You could go to the DPW section, mentions it. You can go to the Environmental Commission page, also mentions it, and they'll link you to there. Then I want to encourage everyone to read the newsletter. Every newsletter, we have the email address for it. And this upcoming newsletter in the Environmental Commission page, we mention that, as well as some other things people should know about, such as clearing brush from the sidewalk. Sometimes people have their bushes too far out and overgrown into any sidewalk area, and it kind of forces people to walk in the street. And just a reminder that people should trim that stuff back to be in compliance, because we want to make sure people can walk, not in the road, but, on the grass or on the sidewalk. Just a couple of good reminders that deal with green things and environment will be in this upcoming newsletter. So everyone, please read it. It'll also be online. So
Councilwoman, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be speaking with you. Tenafly and the people of Tenafly are very lucky in that Tenafly welcomes resident participation, and they're always keeping everybody well informed. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come and inform us. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation already.
sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Happy New Year and have a wonderful evening.
You too.